What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're breaking down the history of the Green Lantern many of us grew up with because of Justice League the Animated Series, and that would be John Stewart, Green Lantern. He's a fan favorite Green Lantern, and I know he's personally extremely high up there for me. So today we're going to break down his history and see why this Green Lantern is so cool. But before we get to that, we want to thank Keeps for sponsoring today's episode. When you look at me, I know it's easy to be distracted by such a glorious slab of man meat, but I'm also one of the many guys who have experienced a thinning or receding hairline early in life. In fact, 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35. But while there's no magic cure for the involuntary kingpin look, the best way to hold on to those flowing locks is to do something about it early on. And that, my comic comrades, is where Keeps comes in and makes it easy. And that begins with no annoying doctor visits, because when you go to keeps.com/variant comics, you'll start by talking to a licensed doctor online from wherever you are. The doc will then review your information and recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you. After that, you also get to skip the lines at the pharmacy, as your treatment is shipped directly to your doorstep every 3 months. And because Keeps offers generic versions of the FDA-approved medications for hair loss, you're also going to save a nice chunk of change in the process. Anyway, once you get your prescription in hand, all you have to do is follow your prescribed plan and start tracking your progress. The important thing to remember is that Keeps treatments typically take between 4 to 6 months to see results, so you want to jump on it as soon as possible, because the sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. Keeps will also have your back all along the way with 24/7 access to your Keeps doctor, who can answer any questions you might have, which is just one of the reasons Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors, and why hundreds of thousands of men already trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention. So if a shiny surface isn't your haircut of choice, head over to keeps.com/variant comics or click the link in the description to get 50% off your first order of hair loss treatment. Again, that's keeps.com/variant comics. But now let's learn about the history of John Stewart, Green Lantern. John Stewart first appeared in Green Lantern issue 87 in December of 1971. He was created by writer Dennis O'Neil and artist Neil Adams. Neil Adams based his original design off Bohemian Academy Award-winning Best Actor Sidney Poitier, which, as you could see, is quite obvious. Now, even though John Stewart was co-created by O'Neil and Adams, it was Adams who first came up with the idea of creating a substitute Green Lantern. From there, the decision to make John Stewart black came from a conversation that Adams had with then DC editor Julius Schwartz. Neil Adams has even been quoted saying, "Given the racial makeup of the world's population, we ought to have a black Green Lantern. Not because we're liberals, but because it just makes sense." And with that, we got DC's first black superhero, who would go on to become one of the most popular superheroes ever created, which is pretty dang awesome. But with that quick introduction of his real-world origin out of the way, let's take a look at his comic book one. John Stewart's original origin was given to us in Green Lantern 87, the first issue he appeared in. Then as time went on, it was retconned. So let's start with his modern origin. Here, he was a Marine in the US military. And we learned that for most of John's life, he grew up in poverty and confrontations with the police. And John's mother was a community organizer who was always trying to make things better for her neighborhood, which inspired John to make the world a better place. Once John graduated high school, he wanted to become an architect. But remember, he also wanted to make the world a better place. So before he went on to college, he joined the Marines. This would allow him to help change the world, but also pay for his college degree. While in the Marine Corps, John became an excellent combatant and honed his focus and discipline, as well as becoming one of their best snipers. But when he didn't follow an order from a superior, he was threatened to be court-martialed, telling his superior, "Do you want to court-martial me? Go ahead. I'll be happy to tell them how eager you were to kill American citizens." Although Stewart didn't get court-martialed, he was given an honorable discharge for threatening a supervising officer. At this point, John would come back home to get his architect degree and end up working as one for Ferris Air. But unknown to John, the Guardians of the Universe had been keeping an eye on him since he was very young, believing he would one day become an invaluable member to the Green Lantern Corps. So while he was at work, they sent a manhunter to Ferris Air facility to test his worth. And John, being John, without hesitation, sprung into action to fight this manhunter, even though he had no shot at beating him. His fearlessness and bravery earned him a Green Lantern ring, which he quickly mastered and brought down the manhunter with. After this, he was brought to Oa, where he met the Guardians of the Universe for the very first time. While there, they tell him, "We have watched you for some time. We see that you are a conflicted man, John Stewart. You desire peace, and yet you do not shy away from battle. That is what drew you into your military. It is what led you to confront a robot that you had no hope in defeating. Now go master your ring. Great challenges lie ahead. You must be prepared." And as John flies away to do that, the Guardians vowed to never tell him that they were the ones who sent the Manhunter to Earth to test him, because if they did, he would probably be pretty pissed. This finally brings us to the events of Green Lantern issue 87, where we see how John became a Green Lantern for the first time in comics with his original origin. Here, John is an architect. Basically, what goes down is Guy Gardner Green Lantern was badly injured getting hit by a bus while trying to save a girl from the same fate. While he was only semi-successful, luckily for him and the girl, Hal Jordan showed up to catch both of them. But Guy Gardner was badly injured. He even said his body feels like a balloon with a lot of busted light bulbs rattling around found inside. So of course, Hal takes him to a hospital where the doctor tells him, it's a miracle your friend survived at all. If he hadn't been in perfect health, he wouldn't have, but as it is, he's gonna be in bed for the next 6 months. As Jordan walks out of the hospital, he says to himself, this is not a good situation. Guy was my successor, the only other deserving one on Earth, fearless and honest enough to activate a power ring. I've been counting on him letting my duties slide while I got my personal life together, knowing if I got strung out, Guy could take over. At this point, a Guardian appears to Jordan saying, hear me, Green Lantern of Earth, we have witnessed Guy's injury. It is our wish to designate another substitute for yourself. Hal says, I concur, but who? It's at this point we are taken elsewhere where we see a cop picking on 2 black guys playing dominoes on a sidewalk, telling them, move along, you haven't got a game permit, and besides, you're blocking the sidewalk. At which point a voice off panel says, yeah, fine advice, officer. We then see on the next panel, this person is John Stewart, who continues to say, maybe you ought to check your law book and find out if they really need a permit to play dominoes. As for blocking, it won't hurt anybody to walk around them. The cop then says, you want trouble? John replies, I don't want it, but I'm not about to run from it either. And anyway, I kind of doubt you're man enough to give it, even with your nightstick. The cop then tells his partner, blast them, they got no respect, but his partner replies, Fred, respect has to be earned. The way you acted, you don't earn a nickel's worth. Showing us that Fred's partner is a good guy. Fred, not so much. Meanwhile, Hal is looking at all this from the top of a building with the Guardian and asks him, that's the man you want to trust with the power ring? The finest weapon ever created? The Guardian tells him he has all due qualifications and we're not interested in your petty bigotries. Hal answers saying, hey, that's not what I meant. Maybe he's brave, honest, and has the right kind of mind, but it's obvious he also has a chip on his shoulder the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. Frankly, I think you're making a mistake. The Guardian says perhaps, nevertheless, our judgment stands. Later on, we see Hal Jordan meet up with John at a candy store all Willy Wonka style, asking him if he would like to be a Green Lantern. John replies, considering jobs aren't exactly plentiful for black architects right now, I have plenty of time. Sure. I'll try your gig. Might be some laughs being a superhero. From here, Jordan shows John the Green Lantern ritual and oath, helping him turn into a Green Lantern for the very first time. To which John says, these aren't any threads that James Brown would wear, but they beat my usual Salvation Army special. Only thing is, I won't wear any mask. This black man lets it all hang out. I've got nothing to hide. Long story short, Hal clearly didn't agree with the Guardian's decision to make John a Green Lantern due to his anger towards society, which he thought would make him unfit and untrustworthy to wield a Green Lantern power ring. However, John very quickly proved Jordan wrong, and Hal was able to see things from his point of view, with John going on to prove to be way more than a temporary replacement Green Lantern for anyone. In fact, he would go on to become one of the greatest Green Lanterns of all time. After John Stewart became a Green Lantern, he quickly went on to be a primary character for the Green Lantern series, essentially taking over the book from issues 182 through 200. This happened because Hal Jordan gave up the role of the Green Lantern in the 1980s. So at this point, John was selected by the Guardians of the Universe to be the full-time Green Lantern of Earth. It was during this time that John would work as an architect for the Ferris Aircraft Company. During this time, he would fight a bunch of Green Lantern villains and even fall against the Anti-Monitor's forces during the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline. We see that John was trained on how to use his power ring by Green Lantern Kat Matui. The two would even fall in love and got married. But unfortunately, she was killed by Star Sapphire. After this, one thing led to another, and we would finally get the Cosmic Odyssey miniseries event where John failed to stop the destruction of the planet Xanshi by the avatar of the anti-life equation, one of the greatest tragedies ever in John Stewart's life. John would eventually forgive himself for this and other past mistakes, which would make him into a stronger and more complex hero. He then inevitably became the caretaker of the Mosaic world in the Green Lantern Mosaic miniseries. In this series, most notably, John became the first mortal guardian of the universe known as the Master Builder. As a reward, so to speak, for reaching this level, his late wife, Katma, was brought back to life. But wouldn't you know it, tragedy struck again when Hal Jordan, now possessed by Parallax, destroyed both the Guardians of the Universe and the Green Lantern Central Power Battery, which in turn robbed John of his new Guardian powers and his wife again. After this would bring us to the Emerald Twilight story, where John was rendered powerless, becoming just a normal human once again. So now, having lost everything and no longer a Green Lantern, the rival offshoot of the Guardians of the Universe, the Controllers, were like, hey John, how about you join and lead our version of the Green Lanterns, the Dark Stars, who are yet another intergalactic police force for the DC Universe. John agreed, as he said the Dark Stars are needed more now than ever with the Green Lanterns gone. So he started to increase their ranks, seeking out veteran Green Lanterns to become Dark Stars. It's while on the Dark Stars he would meet and fall in love with a new woman, Marion the Thalas. But tragedy is not over for John, because during a battle as a Dark Star, he suffered injuries that crippled him, losing his ability to walk, at which point he left the Dark Stars and returned to Earth. But as many of you would assume, John eventually regained his ability ability to walk sometime later. It was revealed that repressed memories of his sister dying in a car accident, which was partially his fault, was stopping his brain from allowing him to walk. But once he accepted the truth, he was able to walk again, and then he joined the Justice League of America. Then, skipping some stuff here and there, we have Blackest Night. In this, John wanted to go honor the people of Xanshi, the planet he failed to protect, which I mentioned earlier. But unfortunately for him, millions of Black Lantern power rings flew to the planet and recreated every single soul that died on said planet in John's greatest failure. At which point he was chased by all of them, but luckily for him, he was able to get out of Xanshi's atmosphere and race to Earth to warn everyone. In the end, Necron and the Black Lanterns were defeated by the White Lanterns, and John went to Oa to help rebuild everything that was destroyed. Then most currently in the DC Infinite Frontier era, John Stewart is the star of a brand new Green Lantern series where he's now an ambassador of sorts for the Green Lanterns, where he and the rest of the Green Lantern Corps are dealing with the arrival of the newest Green Lantern teenager, Kelly Quintella. She possesses a powerful gauntlet that could be one of the most powerful and unstable weapons in the universe. But now, you know what time it is, my friends. Powers and abilities time. As a Green Lantern, John has a Green Lantern power ring, which as we all know enables him to make constructs out of green light based on his own imagination and willpower. The constructs are as powerful as his willpower, which are extremely powerful. The green ring also possesses a wide array of functions like flight, the ability to breathe in space, illusion casting, translating alien languages, enhanced strength, speed, durability, and much, much more. But something unique to John Stewart Green Lantern is that he's known as the master builder of the Green Lanterns. This is because of his architectural background. Essentially, this makes him extremely creative and complex with his Green Lantern constructs. But due to his military training, one of his favorite and definitely most famous constructs is his sniper rifle. You almost always see him using it. But for me, my personal favorite is his Gatling gun or machine gun, whatever you want to call it. It's big old freaking gun, and it's awesome. Then as far as his skills go without his power ring, well, he was a United States Marine, so he's an insanely skilled tactician and fighter in hand-to-hand combat. He's also an expert in almost all firearms, specifically long-range weapons. All you really need to know though is he's top 5 or even top 3 Green Lanterns of all time. Now, of course, a staple of our history of episodes are reading recommendations. So here are some for John Stewart Green Lantern. Check out Green Lantern Rebirth by Jeff Johns, The Blackest Night storyline, Green Lantern 2814 Volume 2, Green Lantern Mosaic, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps Volume 3, and the brand new DC Infinite Frontier Green Lantern series. That should be enough to get you all started. And that's gonna do it for another episode of Variant. But if you like today's episode, be sure to check out this one to my left right here. And if you like all of our content, like I always say, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the channel out. But other than that, I'll see you all next time when I talk about all things comics.